Yo, what's up guys? Funky Monki here, your go-to off-meta deck builder, and Forge in the Barrens is right around the corner, and with it we have one of the biggest shakeups in Hearthstone history. So not only are we losing the entire Year of the Dragon, which includes Rise of Shadows, Saviors of Doom, Galakrond's Awakening, and Descent of Dragons, but we're also getting a brand new core set for all of us for free, and we're also getting the new expansion Forged in the Barrens. So after rotation, the meta and decks are going to look completely different. So where do you start? Well, I did all the hard work for you guys, and I theory crafted 20 brand new decks ready to use on day one of Forged in the Barrens. So with all the decks that you're about to see in this video, I tried to use as many of the Forged in the Barren cards and core cards as I could in each deck to make them as unique and different as possible while still keeping them competitively viable. So we have a lot of decks to get through, so let's just go ahead and hop right into it. All right, so the first class that we have up is going to be Druid, and the first deck is going to be this Taunt Tempo Druid. So we just have an absolute ton of new cards in this deck to support this archetype. So we have the new Razormane Battle Guard, which is absolutely insane. You can play a 2-costed Taunt alongside him for free, which protects him, so that way he'll live until the next turn so you can keep mana cheating. We also have Guff Rune Totem, which is just absolute bonkers because a lot of the spells in this deck are nature spells. We have Innervate and Lightning Bloom, Thorngrowth Sentries, Mark of the Wild, and plenty of other spells. So if you just have one other minion on the board by the time you want to play Guff, you can just go ahead and just smash a ton of stats onto the board. And if that's not annoying enough to deal with already, then we do have the new Plague Moth Rotting in here to go ahead and make our boards even stickier, so that way we can finish with like a Greybow or an Arbor Up. The second Druid deck that I have for you guys is going to be a crazy one. It's going to be Celestial Alignment Druid. So the game plan of this is you just want to be ramping up as quickly as possible to turn 7 so you can play Celestial Alignment, which brings both players down to 0 mana, but all cards cost 1. Naturally, this deck benefits more because most of the stuff in this deck are more expensive. So just imagine after you play Celestial Alignment to play a 1 mana cost Guardian Animals, you can just get some insane swing turns. And to make that combo even more consistent, we have Talon Forging, which draws you the Primordial Protectors, which then draw you the Celestial Alignment. So there's multiple ways to tutor out this combo to make sure that you can get it in most games. All right, so moving on to the next class, we have Demon Hunter. And in this one, we have a Death Rattle Demon Hunter. So there's just so many new cards in here. So we have the early Death Rattle package, which does a lot of mana cheating. So we have the Razor Boar, which can cheat a Razorfen Beastmaster, which can then cheat a 4-costed Death Rattle like Fishy Flyer or Renowned Performer. You just get this really cool Death Rattle mana cheating chain going on. But even though that's a really cool chain in the early game, you still have to find out some way to close out the games. You still need to win conditions. So I figured we can go ahead and use the Soul Fragment package in here, because one thing that we can use is we can use Talon Forging, which is a Death Rattle, which gets pulled by the Death Speaker Blackthorn, and then that will then pull the Militia. So you can get some really sweet back-to-back-to-back swing turns with this deck. And then the second Demon Hunter deck is going to be a different take on the Death Rattle package. So we still use that early game Death Rattle package for all the mana cheating, but now we're a little bit more of an aggressive deck. So we don't have a ton of Death Rattles in here because we're not going to be pulling anything out by the Death Speaker like on turn 7, because that's just too slow of a play. So we have just enough Death Rattles in here to get some really cool mana cheating in the early game and really get some tempo going. And then we just use a bunch of draw and a bunch of early game damage to go ahead and just overwhelm our opponent that way. So the next class that we have up is going to be Hunter, and this one is going to be a Beast Hunter deck. A couple of the driving factors in this deck are going to be the Sunscale Raptors, which is a great early costed beast that you can then go ahead and snowball off of. And then we also have the Tavish Stormpike. So you can get some insane mana cheating with this guy. If you have a 2-cost beast on turn 2 that sticks around, you play Tavish on 3, you attack with that 2-cost beast, and you just get a free 1-costed minion. So not only is that a lot of stats, but they have to deal with that, otherwise you keep getting more mana cheating. Now there aren't any really good 4-cost beasts that we could put into the deck, so the chain really only goes to the 1, 2, and 3 to get some early mana cheating to get that ball rolling. Another cool combo that you can use with the Tavish is using the new card, the Tame Beast. So on turn 5, the Tame Beast will be on rank 2, so you summon a 4 mana 4/4. So you can use that with Tavish for 5 mana, attack with that 4 mana 4/4, and then you get a 3 mana dude like Bear Shark or Zixor. And then the second Hunter deck is going to be this Secret Hunter. So we have the new Barak Kodobade, which is the legendary that pulls a 1, 2, and 3 cost spell. So that enables you to draw a 2-cost Secret and then a 3-cost Petting Zoo. We also have the new Crossroads Gossiper, which is amazing on curve. You play a 2-costed Secret like Snake Trap or Pack Tactics, and then you play this Gossiper on 3, And if they attack into it to try and kill your Gossiper, well, they trigger the secret and it buffs up the Gossiper. So chances are it'll probably live. And these guys can just get out of control fast. All right, so the fourth deck that we have up on the list is going to be Mage. And this one is going to be a hero power mage. I know a lot of you guys, including myself, are really looking forward to using this, especially with the new legendary Mordresh. This guy is just absolutely insane. It can just swing games in your favor when you play him. But the kicker is obviously to get him active with the 10 damage from your hero power. So you don't really get to that point quickly. So I figured we can make this control and really slow down the game. So that way we have a lot of time to make a lot of pings and to get this guy active. So some other synergies that we have to utilize with the Mordresh, we have the Wildfire, which upgrades your hero power to do more damage. We have the Reckless Apprentice, which does your hero power damage to everything. And that helps out your Mordresh. And just to make sure that you can play your Mordresh when he's active, we do have the Talon Fordring in here as well, which can draw him. We do use the Yogs. You have about a 50% chance to draw the Yogg or the Mordresh, but chances are by the time that you want to draw one of them, you would have drawn the other. I also thought about using the new card Refreshing Spring Water, but we just have too many minions in here for that to be consistent enough. Yeah, a lot of defensive options, a lot of discovering your hand. So this deck is pretty versatile against anything, and then you just slam that Mordresh down at the end to win. And the next mage deck that we have up is going to be a Secret Mage. Now, it's not a brand new archetype, but we do have quite a few new cards in here. So we have the Arcanologist, so we can draw our secrets more consistently. We can run Talon Fordring again, so that way we can tutor out our Sage, or if we already have the Sage, our Jandis. So these guys are just insanely powerful legendaries that carry the deck. And we have a couple new secret synergies in here too. So we have the Oasis Allies, which gives us a water elemental when one of our minions is attacked. So finally, Mage has a secret that's board-based. And speaking of another board-based minion, we are running that Gossiper as well too. So we have some stuff that can just get out of control. We can push a lot of damage with this deck. Next up, we have Paladin. And the first deck we're going to be talking about is Dude Paladin. So there's a lot of cool new synergies in the Dude Paladin deck. So we have the Knight of Anointment, which draws you a holy spell, which in this case, it's going to be Conviction or Pursuit of Justice. So if you can get an early Pursuit of Justice, that's going to provide a lot of extra damage throughout the rest of the game. And if we don't actually want to spend mana on these holy spells, we do have the Cariel Roam, so we can go ahead and attack with her, discounting these, so they're a lot cheaper to play. So we don't feel bad about just paying 2 mana for nothing. We also get some really cool dude stuff. We got the Warhorse Trainer, and we also have the Stand Against Darkness, so that provides a lot of extra wide board stats, as well as the Soldier's Caravan, which has to be answered, otherwise we just keep making more dudes. And the second Paladin deck that I have for you guys is going to be another Secret Paladin, because we have the new Cannon Master Smith. This guy's absolutely insane because he turns your 1 mana secrets, which are kind of garbage in the mid to late game, into actually valuable threats. But these 1 mana Paladin secrets are really annoying to deal with, especially when you have to play around like Avenge and Noble Sacrifice when you're trying to kill some of the early costed minions in here. And then of course we have the one card that really ties Secret Paladin together. We have the new Sword of the Fallen, because when you're past the mid game, you hate to top deck these 1 mana cost secrets. It just feels so low value, so bad. So this tutors all those secrets out of your deck, so that way you're guaranteed to draw more of your expensive, more impactful minions throughout the rest of the game. All right, so headed into Priest, the next deck to showcase is going to be this Watch Post Priest. Now, as soon as I saw these Watch Posts, I knew I had to make a deck built around these Watch Posts. They're super annoying to deal with. And Priest has a really good way of silencing them too with the new Focused Will. So if we ever want to attack with one of them, we just silence one of them and then all of a sudden we can attack. But these Watch Posts are just super annoying in like a control-oriented Priest deck. We just plop them down, watch our opponent cry as we keep generating more spells and more resources. As a finisher, we have that Cargill Battle Scar, so we actually have a finisher in Priest now. And we also have the new Xyrella card too. So just a little bit of healing goes a long way with Xyrella. We can clear a lot of stuff with her. And the second deck is for all you control Priest players out there that love to watch your opponents cry. So this is your good old-fashioned control Priest. Now I know Priest doesn't have a whole lot of card draw, and we're losing a lot of that infinite generation through the Galakron. So we do use the Malagos into here. So as our hand starts running empty, we just go ahead and slam down the Malagos, refill our entire hand with a bunch of spells, and from there we can just keep generating resources and keep the gas going. So the next class up that we have is going to be Rogue. This one is going to be Poison Weapon Rogue. So this is going to be a fun archetype to use with all the new poison spells that we have. So not only do we have the Apothecary Hellbrim to give us more poisons, but we also do have the Silverleaf Poison, and we also have the Paralytic Poison in conjunction with the deadly poison and nitro boost that we already have. So with all these poisons, we can go ahead and pretty much infinitely attack with these swine tusk shanks, as long as we just keep throwing poisons onto there. If you thought it was annoying before to deal with a 4 durability self-sharpening sword, imagine like a 6, 7, 8 durability shank. And this next rogue deck looks insanely powerful as I built it. So this is going to be the new combo or battle cry rogue. So instead of whirl kick, we're going to be running the field contact, and this guy is insane, especially if you can combine it with like efficient Octobot to discount everything in your hand by 1 mana or 2 mana even. You can play a lot of battle cries and a lot of combos in a single turn with like a 2 mana cost field contact or even cheaper. Like just imagine playing a 2 mana cost field contact, playing a 0 mana cost pen flinger, shadow stepping that back to your hand, playing a 0 costed like prize plunder or a wand thief, playing another 0 costed pen flinger, and all of a sudden you've just drawn half your deck in a single turn. And because the curve is so low costed, we can even play Kazakus at the 4 mana slot. And this guy's crazy if you can combine him even more with like shadow steps or like a Tenwu. And because we're drawing so much, I figured, hey, let's go throw in Mankrik in here as well too, because we'll probably draw his wife pretty easily for that easy 3 burst damage. All right, headed into the 8th class, we have Shaman, and the first one up is going to be Shaman. I know a lot of you guys are excited to see this Murloc Shaman with the introduction of the Firemancer Flurgle card. This is like the Murloc Altruist, and he's absolutely insane if you can combine with the other cheaper Murlocs, which this deck has plenty of. So we have a lot of the typical like Murloc buffing cards in here. You know, we have the Lushwater Scouts, the Lushwater Mercenaries. We even have the Nothing Can Stop Us, which is +2 on everything that's a Murloc, which is pretty much everything in the deck. And because we have such a cheap curve, we can top out at like a Voracious Reader to keep the fuel going. And to keep the tribal theme going, the second Shaman deck is going to be Elemental Shaman. This is going to be more of like a mid-range deck that you want to play stuff on curve, because with the elementals, you want to kind of chain them together. You want to play an elemental like on 2, curve that into like an Arid Stormer, play an elemental on turn 4, and then you can go ahead and play like a Lilypad Lurker on turn 5. And by keeping the chain going, you can get some pretty powerful effects. Now, talking about Warlock next, this is going to be one of my favorite decks that I'm looking forward to playing, and this is going to be like a Nero Cycle Lock. Now, I've seen a lot of lists running like Altar Fire and Soul Rend, and while they are kind of powerful cards, we can cycle just as fast with this list without having to burn our own cards, because it's always the risk about playing like Altar of Fire is accidentally burning your own Nero. So it's like, what's the point of even discarding your own cards at that point? So we can combine a lot of these cheap minions into board clears and into draws. Like imagine if we use a Explosive Sheep and then we cast Grimoire of Sacrifice onto there. That's 4 damage AoE for only 3 mana. And once we cycle enough through our deck, then our Barrens Scavenger and Bloodshard Bristleback are active, and that can provide some insane swing turns and insane healing as well. And once we're at the end of our deck, if our Nero isn't enough, then we always have our Cthulhu finisher too. So we have 2 finishers with this deck. And the second Warlock deck that I have for you is going to be this Egg Lock. And this one utilizes the new Nerubian Egg that we get back in the core set. So with the new Nerubian Egg and the Bone Web Egg that we already have, we can get some pretty cool like Death Rattle and Egg synergy going on. Especially if we can slap like a Terran Gorfiend down on turn 3 to break these eggs and eat them. We also have the new Cabal Outfitter, so we can go ahead and buff one of these eggs as long as we play it like on turn 2 and then curve it out onto turn 3. But we have other ways of buffing up our eggs too. We have like the Wicked Whispers, we have the Wriggling Horror, and we are also using the Disciplinarian Gandling. So if we end up with one of these eggs in our hand, we slap a Gandling down, we throw down an egg, and it automatically gets broken right away. Going into our last class, we have Warrior. And the first Warrior deck up is going to be this Frenzy Enrage Tempo Warrior. So there's a lot of synergies in here which seem absolutely busted. So we have the new Bloodsail deckhand that we can play on 1, and then we can play the new Outrider's Axe on turn 3. Now this axe is crazy busted. Not only is it 9 damage over 3 swings and 1 axe, but you also get to draw potentially 3 cards from that. And we get to do even more if we can buff it up through a Dr. Krastenov. And with some of the frenzy mechanics, we have Whirling Combatant, which is kind of like 2 whirlwinds on a body. So we can use that with other synergies like the Frothing Berserker with Lord Barov, Armorsmith, etc. And then to top it all off here, we have the Overlord Sourfang. Sourfang? Yeah, this deck has a ton of damage, a ton of draw, and could be potentially pretty dangerous. And the second Warrior deck deck that we have for you is going to use the frenzy mechanics still, but it's going to go a little bit more on the control oriented side. So in addition to the Overlord Sourfang, we are using the Tarajo Brave, which is kind of like a deadly shot on a body. So not only do we get 2 of these Braves, we can potentially get 2 more with the Sourfang. So kind of like the days of old when we were playing Dr. Boom, we're kind of controlling the board with our minions. So we can go ahead and play for tempo and for control at the same time. Well, that about wraps up these 20 theory crafted decks ready to use for you on day 1 of Forged in the Barrens. This was a very difficult rotation to go ahead and theory craft for because we have so many changes coming up. If you got some really good ideas or if you like some of these decks, then make sure that you hit that like button down below. That really does help me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And I'm curious to hear from you now. Which one of these decks are you most excited to play on day 1 of the new expansion? And also, if you guys love off-meta decks, if you guys love deck building, then hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification to make sure that you stay up to date on all of my cool Forged in the Barrens decks when the expansion launches. I'll see you guys in the Barrens. Stay funky.